Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2. And my name is Jason, and I will be recording a quick video summary for what has been a really interesting, really fun journey for the making of I Am Legion Reborn. Over the last couple of months, I've been working on this mod since the game came out and refining things and talking with the community and trying to find out, what exactly everybody's looking for out of this game. And I am excited to announce that 1.0 is now officially ready for release. It has been a lot of bug testing. It has been a lot of development cycles and trying to work with what's available inside the system and then also try to write what's not. Had some successes, some failures, but the end result I think is probably well beyond anything I originally set out to conquer. And now that the game is continuing on, we are looking at, I'm trying to continue to support with updates, and as things continue to come out for this game, I'm going to continue to try to support that. We've got an awesome community of Discord members who have been massive supporters of this effort. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. At the end of this, I will have a list of names that I'll be going down, thanking everybody for their continued support. And I will also be releasing several new videos where I'm going to be discussing kind of the approach to some of these systems and what is set up for the game currently. Along with, so as many of you can probably tell, I'm in the ultimate version of the game, continuing to show off some of those features of the standard editions, the survivor mode versus the ultimate survivor, so that you get an idea of what the game would be like for a lore friendly playthrough versus here we have more rage, we have more attacks, more intensity. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the ultimate survivor and just kind of quickly summarize what's been done since the pre-release. So that change log is massive since 0.9, and so I'm going to have a very long list of updates that I'll have along with this video so that you can kind of see everything that's been done since 0.9. But the focus here has been on trying to bring a human AI system to the game that is actually responsive, that's actually running around the map, that is a threat inside this environment as much as the zombies. And so for this ultimate survivor version of the game, you can see that basically the world is now actually alive with chaos, with those zombies running through the spaces and attacking. And one of the things that I've tried to look at is basically how can we make the player not the only focus for the world, but how can we make the rest of the world also feel like it's responsive, that things are happening inside that world that you are walking up to. So, for example, in the vanilla game, I feel like I never really encountered a group of soldiers that made me feel like I was playing co-op, or that there were other runners inside this world that you could encounter. And so one of the things that I've been trying to achieve is trying to set up these humans to where they are able to climb, where they are able to actually utilize the buildings and other environments inside the game a little bit better than the vanilla for sure, but also working together with different weapon types to overcome enemies. So kind of the approach that I took here was similar to the original Halo game, which is you've got a world that is already kind of geared towards the zombies will ultimately win inside this environment, but what you have the ability to impact is saving as many as you can. So before, where you're kind of running through this world arbitrarily and there's some PK out there, there are some zombies. Now it's starting to look at, can we actually start to clear areas and bring these PK together? Can we actually start to work and do some good here and actually start to clear the streets and give these areas back to the PK, or for the survivors? If you want to side with those different factions, you can kind of take sides. The PK still have the occasional glitch to where they will treat you as hostile, but for the most part, I like to think that some of this has now been balanced to where you have random mixed in there, to where sometimes if you are going through the world, it might actually be a bandit who's dressed up as a PK, so it's not actually just a PK group, but maybe it was a group of bandits that killed the PK and took their armor, kind of thing. So it's kind of it comes down to like creating your own story inside the game, but mainly trying to find a way to create a system that would allow these PK and different units to start moving through the map in a way where you actually started to root for them, or you actually started to try to aid them in their travels. So a lot of this focus has been, how can we shift this verticality to where, you know, now we have these we have these towers out here. Getting the bandits to actually climb up these towers and use these to fire down on the zombies and PK became very interesting, and continuing to look at what does it look like when I round a corner and there's a very large number of archers that are basically acting like a firing squad and taking out large number of humans and zombies. And so looking at how we can set this up and how it kind of starts to create a story element here of fighting for a square and trying to take back certain regions. I've also worked on trying to update some of the visual models in the game. So there was a couple of zombies and a couple of groups in here that I didn't really feel were geared towards serious gameplay. Some of them were a little bit more comical, or felt like they'd been kind of rushed and they hadn't been completed. So after learning more about the modeling system inside the game, I worked very hard to try to create a more realistic balance between these zombies and the PK. So all of the PK soldiers that you see out here got kind of a overhaul on their armor and gear, except the commanders. So they were able to look like they are ready to gear up and actually start taking areas back. So as you're going through the city, you'll no longer find them, you know, looking like they are not ready for combat. They should actually start to look like they are more prepared to go fight against the zombies. Along with that, I have several new custom zombies, so I am working on a couple of additional optional modes for this mod that will be released here shortly. But I wanted to also go through here and update the visuals on some of these zombies and bandits that make them feel a little bit more at home inside these environments. So as I'm running through here, I'll start to point those out. The main focus was the first one that comes to mind was the different zombies that are meant to represent PK or renegades. There were several zombies in here that were supposed to be wearing, in all the code, they're identified as kind of PK zombies or renegade zombies. But when you look at them, it's not really super clear that they're like the same generation of PK. Maybe they're meant to be a little bit more outdated versions of the PK. Well, I went through there and I started to try to play with kind of what are those visual representations of zombies that have died, and do they have the armor similar to the actual PK and the actual renegades now, so not to stand out too distinctly as kind of outdated or old looking or kind of strange looking zombies. There were a couple of zombies in here that felt like they looked like they hadn't quite been finished, in the sense that their graphics and that kind of thing seemed a bit outdated. So I went through and I updated that to where each one should now be better represented by either a face mask or armor set or something to make them a little bit more interesting and make them feel a little bit more like a PK or renegade. And let's see if I can continue to run through here and find things. The daytime has been balanced, or in the city, it is all out warfare across every street. So as you're traveling throughout the city, you will see that there are different battles taking place across each street. And the idea here is that if you take the time, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the Halo 1 approach, is that if you take the time, you can actually gather a good number of PK or survivors to where they band together and you can actually continue to clear the streets with them. I'm continuing to look at ways that I can turn off the spawn system so that as you start to clear the city, they won't come back right away. So here's actually one of the updated zombies for the renegades, dead renegade soldiers. So let's see if I can get him to grab me here without the rest of these guys. Looks like the PK are moving in to help, so they've heard all the noise and commotion over here. And now, with this latest update, they should actually slowly start moving in, and they should be better prepared to help clear things out. So before they were kind of running headlong into the action, and that was resulting in a lot of them dying quickly. They'll try to band together a little bit more now and slowly work together to clear these forces. And so you can see here that we have much fewer numbers of them going down, but they're actually able to go through here and clear. Now, kind of the idea here is that I'm trying to set up the zombies. A couple of people have mentioned before that the zombie scaling is kind of weird as far as like sponges as they continue to get hit or as you continue to level. So I did go through here and start to try to set up the idea that basically they're at a more set HP, so that they are the more weaker versions of the zombies, that they are the sun-dried versions of these zombies, and so this makes them a little bit easier for the NPCs to deal with. And I've tried to continue to look at difficulty balancing to where this is meant to allow these guys to go outside these environments and actually win. Before, basically, it was just so unbalanced to where they were just constantly getting wiped out in every encounter. So to help with this, I tried to help balance out some of the damage and health systems to make it more likely that these guys would actually survive more than 30 seconds out here on the streets. That being said, again, I'm still looking for ways to have them heal and actually take care of themselves in these environments. I've had some success. So for a while there, I was working with giving them specialty weapons, and that could be Molotovs. And the challenge with that seems to be that they didn't know how to really only use them to a limited amount. They would basically light lots of areas on fire by accident, that kind of thing. And so the end result there was that I had to turn off those systems until I learned more about writing the code for these special weapons, which I'm going to continue to look at with the updates coming out. But I just basically didn't want to introduce too many game-breaking elements. For example, if you're going through a quest area and you've got some guy who's constantly throwing Molotovs, then there's a very high chance that quest could even become uncompletable because of the amount of chaos that one guy is creating. And kind of the cool part that you can see there is that they do still have the armor system in here. So even though with the updated visuals, he is still using the armor system as well. And so if we actually strike off his mask here, let's see if I can do this while it's off. Lock this down. Never actually tried to remove the mask after they've died. Doesn't look like that's possible. But the idea is that underneath their mask, if they strike those off, it is actually a zombie underneath as well. And there's a couple of different variations that I've added. So here's another one that they also have the masks on, but still zombies. And I have updated the virals as well. So you can see now we have a good amount of zombies out here that are meant to be civilians. But then we also have a lot of fallen warriors from all sides. So we have renegades out here. We have the PK and the big hulky character as well. So kind of aiming towards representing these two-handed guys that have also fallen in combat. So that it's not too far away from the original, but it is starting to leak in a little bit more interesting content as we go. So I'm going to actually go ahead and switch over to night really quick. I know that was a longer daytime video here. Let's switch over, and here in a second, I'll actually do another video specific to Survivor. I'm also going to put out a thank you video as well for all of the people that have supported this effort throughout the development of the last couple of months. And so stay tuned for that as well. So for nighttime, I've continued to also engage with the weather systems to try to take your guys' feedback and get those in there. There have been a couple issues with a heavy chrome effect and certain other things that have been encountered throughout the game. Thank you guys again for all your feedback and helping try to limit those and clean those up inside the game. So I was able to clean up a lot of the issues that you guys have mentioned, but as always, testing and everything continues on. For every feature that you introduce, you can often end up with several hours worth of testing. So as some people have mentioned before and requested, so this is lore based, so the night is going to be heavily flooded streets depending on your difficulty. So the 3 difficulties are back. So we do have casual survivor, we have survivor, and then we have the ultimate survivor. What this means right now, until I continue to work on this difficulty update, which after reviewing, so the big concern here is that with the features that have currently been in there, a lot of people have been talking about bug fixes and that kind of thing. To split these out into 3 different versions sometimes becomes very taxing to make sure that features aren't being lost in between the 3. And so I'm still continuing to look for a better way to possibly write for all 3 and make those associated with these standard difficulty settings, to where as you set those difficulty settings in the game, it could change the difficulty settings of the mod as well. I'm still continuing to play with this and see what's successful. It does take time and a lot of effort to get those systems working, so I'm still combing through that. But the focus here is that at night, the enemies or the zombies start flooding out of the building. So the infected are currently inside the houses, and then when nighttime hits, they all start to flood the streets. What that should mean, based on the lore, is that the interiors are less occupied. So as the days progress, if you want a higher chance of being able to get inside those interiors and actually go get loot and that kind of thing, you would take and wait till night and try to survive combing through the city and getting into those dark hollows and GRE sites, so that you can have less of a difficult time getting down there and getting loot. So we still have the issue as before, where a cell or an area cell does not get the update until officially moving out of that area. So it will take a second. If you do switch over to this 1930, you do have a moment where you don't have the howlers or anything else inside the environment. What you have to do is actually just move across the landscape a little bit. This is based on their distance systems, and also something I was mentioning with trying to maintain clearing streets and that kind of thing. All these systems are basically tied to a very short, limited distance that you actually are able to travel before these cells are updating, and so still continuing to look at what options I have there. So now that it's night, there's a couple of things specific to the new update that we can discuss. So the howlers are now crawling through the environment. So these guys have been updated to no longer be standing still and just basically doing nothing inside the environment. You should now have them slowly crawling through the environment and searching for the player. If they discover the player, and this is true of all 3 versions, if they discover the player, then they are going to start the chase and start screaming. Now, what I've also tried to set up with this is, if they start screaming, they are also now more likely to follow you. They are also more likely to start chasing you through the environment as well. This doesn't always work, but it's been fairly successful in the times that it's been interesting to watch hanging around an environment. Basically, we have 2 chase systems now with the latest version of the mod. You have the regular chase system, which spawns virals and volatiles into the environment, and then you have my new mini chase system. The idea behind this is that for the higher difficulties, is basically setting up a higher chance that you'll get infected spawning at the time that a chase begins. So the idea here is that the mini chase doesn't begin until this howler actually screams, and then basically the idea is that once he starts screaming, we will get more special infected inside the world, and they will start searching for the player. We also have updated volatiles, so you can see here we have volatiles inside the environment that are now slowly searching and creeping through the night and going after the player. I have fixed, there was an issue with UV light detection with these guys. All those problems have been fixed, and they should be now crawling through your environments and reacting to the UV light issue. A couple of the other problems I ran into is that the larger special infected are not meant to encounter the UV lights quite the same way as some of these other guys, and so you will occasionally get weird glitches where the larger special infected are able to get past UV lights and that kind of thing. And this is just kind of systematic or symptomatic of where they did not design these guys to actually be able to go inside bases, or where they designed them not really to be able to travel that far. So they're only meant to travel a certain distance, and so because of that, they will ultimately get inside the bases and start to do things that you normally wouldn't see because of the way that the code is written now, with them being able to travel to different locations. So we have a howler screaming. You can see here that we do not have a chase started. I'm just trying to keep an eye out for, there we go. So our larger guys, so we'll have Volatile start to spawn, and basically what I've set up is a random factor for our spawn. So each time a howler screams, you'll get a different mix of special infected. So you can get volatiles, you can get goons, chargers, spitters. You can get every different type along with banshees, like I mentioned, on a random spawn case. And so the idea here is that as you continue to hang out in these spaces, it'll bring more howlers in, and the more howlers that are getting called in and are screaming, actually the more large infected will actually start to head this way. So the idea is that, you know, if you choose to hang out in the area for too long, it will actually continue to make the map harder. Now, I don't know how well this is going to work now that I'm up in this tower. I actually haven't done too many tests with being out of the actual nav mesh for these guys. You can see it's kind of freaking these guys out a little bit because they don't know what they're actually able to do here. So if we get back down onto the map, potentially be able to see this in a little bit better output here. But the idea here is that I wanted to make the night more responsive. I wanted to make the howlers be able to creep through the night and continue to search for you. I wanted those volatiles to actually be dangerous and scary as well. And so the idea here is that if those start to fail, if the virals and the volatiles are tied up, then all of a sudden now we start to get things like demolishers that are trying to throw rocks to block your path as you're jumping from building to building. You get banshees that are starting to tackle you to help slow you down. And the more we hang out in this environment, as I mentioned, the more dangerous it gets. And so the idea here is for the player that you have to keep moving, keep shifting through the city, and the longer you hang out in an area, the more likely you are to finally die. So as you can see, we've got the whole map is alive down there. We've got banshees everywhere, we've got virals, everything alive. I'm actually kind of surprised I did this long. So the focus here is to not make the game too difficult, but rather make the game start to balance out the more special weapons you're starting to get. So you're starting to get things like grapples, and you're starting to get the paraglider and that kind of thing. It's a hope that as you start to get these different tools, it'll actually allow you to move through the map while also being cautious to what's down below you. So being able to just easily traverse the night has always been kind of a problem with the base game, and so the new focus is how can we make this night more interesting, more challenging, so that as you get better weapons, the legendary weapons, and as you get legendary tools, you're actually able to traverse this world in a new way that would actually bring some additional challenge or new rewards of being able to get through the night and survive, even taking out large numbers of enemies. So even using things like the custom explosives and the mines and that kind of thing, setting up a battlefield inside this environment to where you're also able to challenge waves of these guys can now be achieved by taking out and trying to fight these howlers. So the howlers are now doing more of a job to bring the map down on you, and it's a lot of fun to watch these guys slowly traverse the night and try to stay above them. You do occasionally, so I've tried for the most part to keep most of these guys on the ground so that that allows the player to traverse without too much chaos. So I did try an earlier version of this where I had more guys going up into the buildings. That's pretty fun, and I still have the Volatile searching up in the buildings, and they're actually super creepy where they're slowly making their way through the buildings. Um, but the Howlers I try to keep down on the street level with the occasional chance that they'll start to go inside the actual buildings and across the different rooftops. This leading to hopefully more excitement for you guys that have turned that icon off. So that howler icon is tied to the configs. So if you don't want to be able to see where all these guys are on the map, it's very easy to turn those off in the config file. And I hope you guys get a chance to turn that off and see what it's like to be running through an environment already running or hiding from the volatiles, and then run into a random howler who's waiting for you. It's actually pretty intense. Okay, guys, as always, this is a feedback driven project. So, over the last several months, I've been working a lot of hours to try to bring you guys content based on what you guys have requested and what we've been seeing. I'm going to continue to try to support this, but I'm going to try to dial back a little bit on hours to learn more and try to find some more interesting things to work on. And so I continue to look forward to hearing your guys' feedback, and I will continue to support this mod for the foreseeable future and continue to try to get these features in. But I really want to also give some time for you guys to give some good feedback and continue to expand on modding yourselves for the game. And so I look forward to seeing what comes from everybody and continuing to play this game as the game develops and all the updates coming out. So thank you guys again so much. This has been the ultimate version of the mod, definitely the more challenging here. I am going to do a quick summary, long summary video for the Survivor version as well. And once I get that video completed, as I mentioned, I'll be putting out a special thanks video as well. Thank you guys so much, and stay safe, and look forward to talking to you guys online. Thanks.